Since the landmark Violence Against Women Act was first passed by Congress in 1994, domestic violence against women and men has decreased nearly 60%. The act provides funding to investigate and prosecute these crimes, as well as funding for services such as women's shelters. The VAWA was easily reauthorized and expanded in 2000 and 2005, but it has languished in Congress now for more than a year. That's because some lawmakers are opposed to the provisions that would add protections to those in same-sex relationships, undocumented immigrants, and Native Americans living on tribal land. But this hasn't slowed down one Wyoming woman who speaks out against domestic violence. Her father murdered her mother when she was 12. Haylee Reay spoke earlier with Wyoming Signature's Willow Belden.
Why did he kill her?
They were supposed to get a divorce.
And that was it?
Yeah.
Now, your dad had not been physically abusive to your mom before this, but were there other warning signs? Had he been verbally abusive, emotionally abusive?
He was very controlling, emotionally abusive. Like, whatever my mom did, he had to be right there every time, everywhere. So.
Just had to always be with her?
Yes,
and
right next to her.
And did he try to control what she did?
Well, he was always working, but when he did come home, he had to be right there, and if we did go somewhere, he would just show up. So.
After all of this happened, your dad eventually went to prison. You went to live with your grandparents in Lander.
Yeah.
I can imagine this must have been very difficult growing up without your parents as a 12-year-old, as a teenager. What did you say to people? What did you say to friends when they wanted to know why you weren't living with your parents?
When I moved to Lander, the students were notified of what had happened, but when people did question me, I just say it's a long story, or my dad killed my mom.
And so you would just tell them right up?
Yeah.
That must have been hard, though. What was their response usually?
They were shocked because, I don't act like something like that could have happened to me. Like, I'm just normal like everyone else.
I can imagine that all of this must have left emotional scars, though, even if you're outwardly acting just like everyone else. How do you deal with everything that happened?
I run a Facebook page in memory of my mom and has statistics and stuff about domestic violence, and then I travel to schools and speak about domestic violence.
And when you're traveling to schools, when you're speaking about this, what advice do you have for people? What warning signs should people watch out for?
Watch out for a lot of things. There's texting constantly, like, where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? There's always calling you, checking up on you, always having to be around you, saying that you can't be with anyone else, they'll kill themselves if you're not going to be with them, holding money back from you, physically hurting you.
And if someone sees warning signs, whether that's from your own partner or spouse, or if you see this happening to a friend, what should people do?
They should get out of the relationship. Like, it can escalate very quickly, and you don't want what happened to my mom to happen to you. So.
It's often hard to get out of an abusive relationship, though. There's a lot of, as we talked about, a lot of emotional control that's going on that the abuser is basically doing. So if the victim doesn't feel like it's safe to leave or doesn't feel like she can leave, what should she do?
There are people out there to help. There are safe houses. You can get online and talk to advocates. There's a hotline. There's tons of resources for help.
And now you're also a youth advisor for a teenage dating abuse website. Often when we think of domestic violence, we think of this as something that happens between spouses, between adults. How big an issue is this? How big a problem is this for teens?
It's just as big an issue as for adults, because people start dating, and that's when the habits start coming out, and they follow how their parents' relationships are, and they'll continue to do those things for the rest of their life if you don't watch out.
And when in terms of the warning signs, there's this similar warning signs, whether you're 14 or 30?
Yep, same things.
The same things. Now, you've decided to study criminal justice here at UW. Did all of this that happened, did that factor into your decision?
Yeah, it did.
And what do you hope to do with this degree eventually?
I want to be a victim's witness advocate and help people that have gone through what I had to.
Tell us how that works.
So the families that are victims come in, like for trial and stuff, you'd be there for them and you'd help them cope with it.
So how has all of this affected your view of relationships?
Well, I'm in a relationship. I've dated a lot, but I see friends and people, family that have been in domestic violence relationships. I point it out. I try and help people. If I know someone that is and I'm not close to them, I'll be like, hey, you should tell them, what's happening. Because when you're in the relationship, you don't always see what's happening to yourself. Outsiders see it.
Okay, well, Haylee, we really appreciate your sharing your story with us.
Thank you.